even before the minister issued the statement, I had called the minister several times. Unfortunately, he was not able to pick. And when the statement came out, I called him again. I just saw his missed call. He called just at night when I was sleeping. When the disaster happened, I immediately thought that as part of a policy going forward, his ministry should be looking at setting up a fund, because we don't have it. And how do we deal with that situation? That will build back people's lives. It's where mining companies make a contribution of 0.01% of their profits into the fund. Just like the chilling fund in the petroleum sector. So that after some time, if the fund is not utilized and it builds some level, the money can be used for building infrastructure in mining communities. So I wanted to give him that suggestion, but he couldn't pick. Now, and I saw the statement, and I said, again, I called him. I said, Minister, I wanted to ask the Minister, so where did you derive your authority to impose $1 million? Because the LI 2177 is the legal regime that regulates minerals and mining explosives regulation, 2012. So the manufacture, conveyance or transportation, use of explosives is regulated by LI 2177. A person cannot manufacture, transport, or use explosives without an express permit from the Chief Inspector of Mines or Inspectors of Mines, who are constituted as inspectors, Chief Inspector of Explosives and Inspectors of Explosives, respectively. And so, if a person sets up a plant to manufacture explosives, that plant will have to be inspected. The protocols that ought to be in place will have to be checked before a permit will be given to that person, legal person or natural person, to manufacture explosives. And it is the Chief Inspector of Mines who does that. Now, if a person wants to move explosives from one point to another, the Chief Inspector of Mines, who is the Chief Inspector of Explosives or Inspectors of Explosives, will have to inspect the vehicle, the mode of conveyance, and ensure that all the safety protocols for the protection of the driver, road users, pedestrians, and communities where the explosives or the vehicle will pass through are in place before the vehicle can move. And it's a company wants to use the explosives, the Inspector of Mines or the Chief Inspector of Mines will have to ensure that all the safety protocols are complied with before they are used. Because mining is a hazardous activity. The manufacture of explosives is a hazardous activity. And so you have to ensure at all material times that the safety protocols are in place. So when there is an accident of the nature of Appiatse, it is important to understand how the accident happened. Were they breaches? What was the nature of the breaches? Who was liable? Who is culpable? Who should be fixed with responsibility? And then we learn from it so that we can make regulatory amendments to ensure that we take care of future occurrences. So these were my thoughts when the thing happened. But I didn't get to speak to the minister, and I have no locus to begin to talk on this. They say you are too low.
A few things you said. First of all, you said one of the things you talked about was there was no fund immediately available that you can go to and help in the rebuilding process. I also listened to your former colleague in Parliament and former minister in the Mahama administration, Dr. Kobna Donko, who said that companies like Maxim, because of the nature of what they are transporting, usually have to have extensive insurance that's supposed to cover things of this nature. Because I am assuming that if you are carrying explosive that can level...
That's a different conversation altogether. Because what has happened is the cost is to be borne by a single person, legal or natural. That cost will be too heavy. That is why companies that transport, manufacture, use explosives will have to insure themselves against accidental explosions. So all companies, I mean, they know the risk is too heavy that cannot be borne by one person. But talking about Maxim has issued a statement. They said they didn't breach any of the regulations. And speaking as a lawyer and not as a minister for lands and natural resources, I say that manufacture is different from transportation. Maxim says that in the manufacture of the explosives, they comply with all the protocols. And that the company that was transporting the explosives was a different company, Atan. Now, so again, an investigation for the purposes of determining responsibility or liability would have determined whether Atan is an independent contractor or is an employee of Maxim. You get it? For the purposes of fixing liability. Today, Atan is simply lost. In their report, Atan is simply just Maxim. Was Atan contracted by Maxim to transport the explosives, or was the end user responsible for contracting Atan to transport the explosives? Again, it's lost. It's lost.
So there are several questions that needs to be answered. So I'm guessing you're not satisfied with the minister's actions and the basis for the action, because one of the things we're asking is, the first thing we want to see is the report. What does the report say about the series of incidents?
Who are even members of the committee that constituted the members of the committee that wrote the report?
We only know of Dr. Abdulai.
Abdulai was a former CEO. What are his competences?
I'm sure you will know better than us, because I think you're...
I'm just throwing that. It's a rhetoric question.
Okay.
Because you need 50 people who know how to handle explosives, who have studied explosives and know what goes into handling explosives, and how to transport them. People who have been transporting explosives and knows how to transport explosives. You see? You need lawyers to be part of the committee for the purposes of establishing criminal liability. You need them. You need the police to tell you that, look, this vehicle or that vehicle or what, the way the vehicle parked or the way the accident happened, the driver or the person who was in charge of the vehicle ought to have been more careful or was very careful and diligent. You need engineers. The road intersection or the road, how was the nature of the road, or was the road configured? Take an accident of that nature could occur on the road. You see, you do this because of the future. You want to use it as a basis to improve the environment, legal, regulatory environment. And everywhere on earth where there is a mining accident or an accident involving explosives, the first thing they do is to establish a committee to ascertain what happened. We would look at the Norway experience, look at the UK experience, look at the Alaska experience, all of them.
And you are yet to be convinced that that has been done adequately?
That has not been done. No, I don't need any convincing. That has not been done.
But because we heard of institutional investigations, so we are yet to hear from the police. But the ministry...
The police investigation is different from what I'm talking about. So were they ballistic missile experts? Well, what was the velocity at which the vehicle was moving? What was the degree of impact that got the electrons and the atoms and the chemicals to move to cause the explosion?
So, because now we are hearing about a committee that's been set up, and I'm sure you've seen that in the press release that was issued, that is led by, is it the Vice Chancellor of the George Parr Grant University of Mines and Technology, Takwa. Would that be, would that in essence address, or you still want to find out who is on that committee?
Yes. So the Parr Grant was on that committee.
No, is the Vice Chancellor of the George Parr Grant University of Mines and Technology, Professor Richard Amankwa. No, he is heading a new committee.
Now there's a new committee.
Yes, okay, so let me read that part for you. Is that the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources is putting in place these measures to ensure that mining and mining support services are conducted properly. In this regard, I have on Monday, 7th February 2022, established a ministerial committee of inquiry under the chairmanship of Professor Richard Amankwa, Vice Chancellor of the George Parr Grant University of Mines and Technology, Takwa. 2. These are the terms of reference. 1. Undertake a general review of the health and safety regime in the mining industry. 2. Review existing laws, regulations, and guidelines on health and safety standards in the mining industry.
You don't need to go further.
Okay.
So you see, they are jumped one step. So they are now trying to look at the review of the legal and regulatory regime. Not so. Something should inform it.
But what is informing it is the two reports that based on which the minister then decides that if, because he said...
You haven't seen those reports?
No, I haven't seen, but the minister says that he has received 2 reports.
I have not seen those reports, and I don't think they are reports.
You don't think they are reports?
What the kind of reports that I talk? I mean, now you see that when you mention the professors and at the Second School of Mines and University of Mines and others, I didn't make a comment. It's when you started reading out the terms of reference that I said, oh well, it's a review of the legal and regulatory regime. And I'm saying that review must be informed not by the accident, but by findings made by a properly constituted committee to investigate the circumstances leading to the accident. So that they can now know from the properly done investigations what the loopholes are, what is the lacuna, what are the safety gaps. And when they do so, it is not only for Ghana. For foreign countries, other countries are going to learn from our experience.
Alhaji, that's what I'm saying, that This is the minister. Following the incident, the Minerals Commission, the regulator of the mining industry, conducted its investigation in accordance with minerals and mining regulations.
The Minerals Commission conducted its investigation.
And then it continues to say, given the complexity of the matter, I constituted a 3-member committee chaired by a highly reputable former chief executive officer of the Minerals Commission, Mr. Benjamin Aye, to carry out independent investigation to corroborate or otherwise the findings of the Minerals Commission.
And I say that the committee is inadequate.
Should be doing this, or you want the committee that has been set up to go back and start over again?
That's not anything. First of all, Benaye is the employee of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. He was the former chief executive of the Minerals Commission. And the chief inspector of mines, who is to permit the performance of those duties, is an employee of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and the Minerals Commission. You don't see the conflict of interest.
It's formal.
Huh?
It's formal.
I think that we are using a firefighting method. I'm not at all enthused. I know that this is a very serious matter. I know that mining is a very hazardous activity. That's why you need a lot of permits, including a permit from the Environmental Protection Authority for the purposes of carrying out that activity, because the activity impacts the environment. And the environment includes people, the trees, the air, all the natural resources. And so, when an accident of that nature happens, or the nature that happened at Appiatse happens, we should be interested in finding out why it happened. And I don't see any attempt by this government to find out the real causes, what led to the accident. Were they breaches of non-performance of responsibilities imposed on persons by the regulations? Is there a checklist where did the mining inspector actually even inspect the conveyance? Is there a protocol that allows for the company that is transporting to always bring in the mining inspector to look at all the processes before they set off? What is the nature and type of vehicle that is used? Have you got all the warning signals on the vehicle? Is there a need for us to put an escort vehicle before the vehicle that is transporting or it is just enough to use the blinking light and the noise of a bell to warn people? So you need a lot of things.
And all that examination should be carefully done by a group of experts that also include people who safety, because
including people from the military, those who are in the ballistic missiles department, those who are in the arms, because they deal with explosives. The police who have been diffusing bombs. I mean, it's a serious matter.
Because there are those who are suggesting...
And even insurance. Does the company have insurance?
And that's now, one issue.
Haven't fixed them with 6 million. Who pays? Because they have not accepted the responsibility. So who pays? Is it the insurance company or they will pay by themselves? And the insurance company will not pay. It's a general principle of insurance. They don't pay when you accept responsibility.
Because right now, Alhaji, we are uninformed on, because personally, I do not know exactly what happened. And I recall recently, and I don't know if you watched that video of a chief of the area, who is even challenging the police reckoning of what they said happened. And so,
yes,
one of the
they
things we need
school.
to know is what happened and how it happened.
Now I found out that there was no school. They said the tricycle collided with the vehicle. The tricycle driver says, "Oh, he was far away." Is there many things which they are not true? So the truth of what happened is yet lost on us. What we all know is that Appiatse was devastated as a result of the blast. How it happened, why it happened, we don't know.
As a lawyer too, because this question was being asked, does the law also make room for some level of criminal negligence in this matter, considering the lives that were lost?
Well, law firm doesn't have criminal negligence. That was the imputation of Nana Akufo-Addo to when he sought to hold people criminally negligent.
There's no room for that.
No room for that. Negligence is negligence. Okay, and if your negligence results in a crime, is you are committing a crime, it will breach of a statute, a statutory provision. Okay, which will have been made a crime by law. So you will no longer be held for being negligent. You will be held for committing a crime. And negligence arises in thought.
So, as far as you are concerned, what the ministry needs to do, they have not done it.
I think the first thing the ministry should have been doing, should have been concerned with, first of all, to know as a country what has caused this thing. The second thing is, how do we get the people's lives back? How do we get the people's lives back?
I think the vice president even a day or two after that promised that they will reconstruct. There will be reconstruction for the community.
We'll do what?
Rehabilitation and reconstruction of the community. There was a promise from the vice president.
That's what I'm saying. The reconstruction of the community doesn't take place by word of mouth. You must put resources to it.
And that's why they set up a committee subsequently to raise funds.
You're saying that nobody knew that there would be Appiatse, so there was no money. But you, I don't, even there's no money in our contingency fund. COVID swallowed everything. Then you go and say the reconstruction. Why are you going to get money? Are you going to go to Professor Diego of Late for him to conjure money for you?
Oh, they are raising funds led by Mrs. Joyce, Madam Joyce, actually.
Yes, but they should raise funds before the reconstruction. We know what funds they have raised for the reconstruction to start. That is why I'm saying the first time I called the minister, I thought, even before they set up those IS committee, I said, look, let's take inspiration from the Petroleum Exploration Act, where a certain amount is set aside by the companies for the purposes of decommissioning. So now, instead of decommissioning, we just say that they should contribute to your fund. We know that this can happen. They should contribute to your fund. At least 0.01% or 0.001%, whatever figure is determined, for the purposes of taking care of accidents of this nature. Then we set a ceiling. If after 10 years nothing happens, this is what we'll do with the money and continue. So you don't go with cap in hand raising funds. You see, a country, we must plan for the future. You can't always live in the present. You wait when the thing happens, then you look for money.
Alhaji, I also wanted to find out, because it's something that has come up severally. Do you think the laws that were passed to regulate this particular activity, the conveyance, manufacture of explosives, were adequate enough?
Well, they were adequate until Appiatse happened. Because it never happened. But it never happened. No, so the presumption is that We lost where it is. Now that it has happened, we have to look and see whether it's human error or regulatory error or what happened.
So now, okay, so a couple of things I'm hearing from you. You're saying we haven't done what needs to be done. We need to go back and do it properly with the investigation.
International best practice.
First,
When an accident of that nature that happens or Appiatse happens, the first thing to do is to set up a committee to investigate the circumstances leading to the accident happening and what lessons, and recommend regulatory legal reviews to ensure that you tighten the law. And what safety protocols can be put in place to ensure that it never happens. That's the first thing you do.
Before you even go to how to restore the lives of the people.
You also know that, no, this is the person who is responsible. And when you determine the person who is responsible, you fix him with responsibility. And then you sit down and say, look, well, this committee has found you. So it's a committee of inquiry. So it's a decision of a high court. If you want to set that, you must go to the court of appeal.
And then you're also questioning the legal basis for the $1 million.
There's no basis for that. I'm not questioning. I'm not saying that there's no basis for that.
Anyway, the minister admits why he says that because of the gravity of what had happened.
Well, I'm saying that the minister has no discretion to determine whether the gravity of the matter. What is the standard? Not because 10 people died or 12 people died. So if 2 people had died, he would have imposed a lesser fine.
How should we have approached that? In terms of the fine.
I don't know why you should have approached it. If you set up a committee, first of all, government should be doing what it can do in the circumstances to mitigate the sufferings of the people. Then the committee is working out. A committee of inquiry set up in accordance with the Constitution, with properly constituted bodies and persons to investigate. When they make a determination, they will fix liability, and then the terms of reference will include recommending action in the legal review or regulatory review, safety protocols. So their terms of reference will clearly show where we want to go. Where government is taking steps to ensure that at least some modicum of dignity is brought into the lives of the people of the country. Then you are building a long-term solution to the problem.
Because right now, as we speak, there are 2 companies. You mentioned the Athens. The minister also mentioned a certain Josideg that are supposed to be responsible for the transportation. Maxam is saying, well, we're only supposed to manufacture. We didn't do anything wrong, yet we are being fined. Well, the minister says Josideg and Athens, they are now looking at reviewing their actions before deciding how to find them.
So they say they are doing the investigation in talks.
Well,
that's not good.